Listen, I've been saying this for a very long time. I am really burnt out on exorcism movies. And yes, we have a new movie cleverly called The Exorcism. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there are things in this movie that are actually pretty meta, pretty clever, pretty well done, if you know your horror history. So let's talk about the movie The Exorcism. So, The Exorcism is the newest film that's in the Russell Crowe Exorcism universe that is in no way connected to the movie The Pope's Exorcist. Russell Crowe plays Anthony Miller, who is a troubled actor who is actually starting to unravel while filming a supernatural horror film. People within the production are just assuming that the actor's addiction problems are just starting to resurface and starting to get the better of him. Anthony's mental frustration is starting to get the best of him and is also taking a toll on his performance while filming the movie. But not only is it taking a toll on his professional life, it's also messing with the fragile relationship that he has with his daughter. And like I said, the first half of this movie is very meta and very brilliant if you know the horror history and the history of the people that made the movie. Child actor, co-writer, and director of this movie, Joshua Miller, is the son of the late actor Jason Miller. There were some nods to other supernatural films that were supposedly cursed or haunted. There are some definite, obvious nods towards The Exorcist, but there are also some that are in there that are woven in very cleverly. Like the title of the movie that they were working on within this film is called The Georgetown Project, and if you're a fan of the movie The Exorcist, you should know Georgetown is where the original film took place. Russell Crowe's character's last name is Miller, so I'm gonna assume that Joshua Miller, the director of this movie, had somewhat of a similar relationship with his father, kind of like our main character's daughter Lee had in this film. There are some times in this movie when the production is saying, hey, this movie might be cursed, kind of similar like to the movie The Exorcist, where sets were burned down and actual people on production actually passed away. This movie is so meta, it's even down to Anthony Miller's troubles with his addiction with alcoholism. That is something supposedly that actor Jason Miller had a problem with while filming The Exorcist 3. And supposedly the actor had developed something called wet brain, that is something that a lot of alcoholics get where they have trouble with memory loss. And the late William Peter Bladley, the director of The Exorcist 3, did mention that there were some issues with Jason Miller having problems remembering his lines. Like I said, there's some brilliant things that are woven into this movie that are very meta, but if you don't know your stuff,
you're shit out of luck.
A little history about this movie in particular is, well, they filmed it in 2019 and unfortunately could not do reshoots until 2024 because of the pandemic that took place in 2020 and ongoing. And honestly, the movie does feel like it's been sitting on a shelf somewhere for like 3 or 4 years because the first half of the movie is pretty interesting and the last half of the movie just feels like a bunch of studio executives were messing with it. Because the first half of the movie kind of just feels like a psychological horror film and someone just dealing with their addiction problems. And the last half of the movie just feels like every stupid cliche about exorcism movies that we've been seeing for the last 40 years. And it would have been kind of cool if the movie kind of acknowledged that the last half of the movie feels very rushed and very cliche and stupid and maybe threw a jab towards the executives of the movie.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
And even though this movie feels uneven most of the time, we still get some stand-up performances here. Like Russell Crowe, he's doing a pretty good job and he's definitely not phoning this performance in. I always like seeing Adam Goldberg in movies and I thought he did a pretty good job. Even though David Hyde Pierce's part was pretty small, I thought he was actually pretty good and kind of a believable priest. Now the rest of the cast did a fine job and everything, but there were definitely a lot of moments with that cast where I was like, why are you here? Why are you just standing around with nothing to do? Like I said, the first half of the movie is kind of interesting because it plays into the psychological horror factor and, well, you know.
Yada yada yada.
And, well, the last half of the movie?
Dumb.
And honestly, I can't even blame the director, Joshua Miller, for anything that's wrong with this movie because the film feels very tampered with by, like, studio executives. My rating for The Exorcism? Watch it at home when it's streaming for a very low price or free. What I think would be a more interesting movie is a documentary of the making of the movie The Exorcism. Not to mention like an interview with Joshua Miller and looking into all his production notes. I think that would be a much more interesting movie to watch. But before we get any documentary on the making of this movie or anything else, can we please get a sequel to The Final Girls? We've been waiting and that movie just left us hanging. Well, hopefully my review wasn't too harsh, but I was being fair and I thought I was being pretty honest. So did you see the movie The Exorcism? Did you like it? Did you know the history or all the background stories of the people that were involved making this movie? Please comment below and let me know. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and please don't forget to set up the alerts so you know when I post something new, which is every week. And I'm Mike the Movie Misfit, and I'll see you at the movies.
I'll be back. Ooh.
out of life. Go out to a movie.